The wounded alien in the wreckage. The storm on the dead moon had passed, but the dust still floated in the thin gray air. Tom Riley, a lone human engineer, walked carefully across the rocky ground. His boots crunched against broken metal and burned wires. In the distance, smoke rose from a crashed escape pod. His scanner beeped softly. Life sign. Weak, Tom whispered to himself. He moved closer, holding his tool gun ready, not as a weapon, but just in case. This part of space was lawless. Pirates. Bounty hunters. Worse. Still, something inside him said to check. The pod was dented and covered in scorch marks. The hatch hung open, half melted. Tom peeked inside, and then he saw her. She was lying on the floor, covered in ash and blood. Her skin was pale purple, glowing slightly under the emergency lights. Long silver hair was tangled around her face. Her eyes, half open, looked right at him, bright blue and full of fear. She tried to move, but cried out in pain. Her arm was twisted at a strange angle. Tom stepped back. She was alien. Not just any alien. He recognized the markings on her suit. A Zentari. They were banned in Alliance space, considered dangerous. Rumors said they couldn't be trusted. But, as he looked at her, he didn't see a threat. He saw someone hurt, someone scared. "Don't move," he said softly, lowering his tool gun. "I'm not going to hurt you." The alien woman blinked, confused. Tom knelt beside her and slowly reached into his bag. He pulled out a small medical injector and a scanner. "Your arm's broken. I can help if you let me." She stared at him. Then, after a moment, she gave a small nod. He worked carefully, spraying a numbing agent and scanning the damage. Break was bad, but not impossible. "This will hurt for a second," he said. She winced as he straightened her arm and wrapped it in a healing brace. The device hummed softly, glowing blue. When he finished, she was breathing harder but looked better. "Thank you," she said, her voice soft and strange. Why are you helping me?" Tom looked at her for a long moment. "Because it's the right thing to do," he said. "I don't care what species you are." The woman looked away, her eyes wet. "No one helps my kind. Not anymore." Tom helped her sit up slowly. "What's your name?" he asked. "Lyra," she said. "And yours?" Tom Riley." He helped her to his small scout ship parked nearby. It wasn't fancy, but it had working heat and a med bay. He let her rest on the bed as he prepared a hot drink. "You were lucky," he said. "That pod almost became your coffin." "Wasn't luck," Lyra replied. "I was escaping from them." "Them?" Tom asked. She didn't answer. Instead, she looked at the stars outside the ship's window. Tom didn't push. She had clearly been through something awful. He just sat beside her and offered her the drink. "Do you trust me now?" he asked. Lyra looked at him, really looked. "I don't know why," she said. "But yes, I do." As they sat in silence, a small blinking light activated on the wrecked pod, hidden deep inside the frame. A bounty beacon. Someone, somewhere, had just received a signal. The Zentari woman was alive, and someone was coming. Running from the law, hiding in the stars, the ship shook. Tom grabbed the side of the cockpit as the red alarm lights flashed in the narrow hallway behind him. Above him, a sharp robotic voice repeated the same words. "Warning. Tracking signal detected. Bounty alert. In progress." His heart sank. He turned to Lyra, who was now sitting on the med bay bench, her broken arm still inside the glowing brace. Her eyes were wide with fear. She had just started trusting him. And now this. "Did your pod have a tracker?" Tom asked. Quickly, Lyra didn't answer. Instead, she looked down at her hands. "Lyra," he said more firmly, "you need to tell me now." "I didn't know it was still active," she whispered. They must have hidden it inside the frame. I only had minutes to escape." Tom rushed to the console. The radar showed a fast-approaching ship. Alliance patrol. No time to argue. No time to run the numbers. "Hold on," he said, slamming his hand on the controls. His ship jumped into the nearest asteroid belt, slipping behind a thick wall of spinning rocks. The engines roared as they dodged between giant floating boulders. The Alliance ship entered orbit a moment later, scanning hard. Tom turned off everything except life support and the gravity field. The ship became dark and quiet. "If they find us," Lyra said, breathing fast, "they'll kill you." Tom looked at her in the dim blue light. "Maybe, but I'm not letting them take you." She stared at him like he was mad. "Why? We barely know each other." "Because you're not just some alien," he said. "You're someone who needed help, and I helped you. That means something to me." Lyra didn't know what to say. In her world, kindness was a weakness, but Tom made it feel like power. The ship remained still for hours. Finally, the radar showed the Alliance cruiser leaving orbit. They were safe, for now. Tom powered up the lights again and sat down beside her. "You hungry?" he asked. She nodded. He handed her a warm protein bar. It tasted awful, but it filled her stomach. While they ate, Tom showed her the ship. It was small, a one-man vessel, barely enough space for two. But it was home to him. "I built it myself," he said. "Every wire, every screw. Named it the Far Wanderer." "It's beautiful," she said, touching the wall gently. He showed her the engine room, the storage locker, and the co-pilot seat, now hers if she wanted it. Then came the silence. "You said they were hunting your kind," he said quietly. "Who exactly is they?" Lyra's face darkened. "The Alliance. Or at least, a part of it," she said. "They promised peace to my people, offered trade, knowledge, protection." "What happened?" Tom asked. "They lied. They took everything, our tech, our leaders. And when we protested, they called us a threat. Declared us enemies. They wiped out our cities. Some of us escaped. Most didn't." Her voice cracked. Tom gently placed a hand on her good arm. She didn't pull away. "I watched my sister get taken," Lyra whispered. "I don't even know if she's alive." Tom felt anger rise in his chest. "You're not alone anymore," he said. "We'll figure something out." Before she could reply, the console beeped. Another signal. A message. Encrypted but familiar. Lyra moved quickly to decode it. Her hands flew over the keys. Tom watched her expression shift, from shock to hope and then to panic. "What is it?" he asked. "This signal. It's my sister's code, her personal tag. But it's weak, like a distress call. Can you trace it?" "No," she said, frustrated. "It's scrambled, someone's hiding it." Tom leaned forward. "Could be a trap," he said, "or it could be real." Lyra looked at him. "I have to try." He nodded slowly. "Then we'll try." Suddenly, the ship's power flickered. The lights dimmed again. Tom rushed to the controls. "We've been hit by a pulse scan," he said. "Someone knows we're here." Lyra stood, ignoring the pain in her arm. "They're coming." "Then we go dark," Tom replied, flipping the emergency cloaking panel. "Now." They vanished into the shadows of the asteroid field once more. Only now they were being hunted. A signal from the past. The Far Wanderer drifted silently in the dark between two massive asteroids. The ship was in low power mode, hiding from the Alliance scans that now swept across the belt like a searchlight in a prison yard. Inside, Tom and Lyra sat in silence. The only sound was the soft hum of the emergency systems and Lyra's fingers tapping against the console as she worked to decode the strange signal. It had been 3 hours. 3 hours since the encrypted message had come in. 3 hours since Lyra had said the words that chilled Tom's spine. "This is my sister's voice." But the signal was faint, buried under layers of distortion. Every attempt to trace it failed. Every code key she tried was too weak or too old. Still, she didn't stop. Tom watched her from the corner of the room. Her face was tight with focus. Pain flickered in her eyes, but she ignored it. "You should rest," Tom said gently. Lyra didn't. "Look away from the screen." "I can't. What if it fades?" You won't help her if you collapse, he replied. Let me try for a bit. She hesitated, then slowly stood and walked to the back of the ship. She didn't say thank you. She didn't need to. Tom already knew. He sat at the console and stared at the waveforms. They pulsed in strange, broken patterns, too organized to be random, too raw to be artificial. Then he saw it, a hidden frequency, low band, almost like a whisper in static. He clicked it open. A voice came through, cracked, weak, filled with pain. Lyra, this is Ina. I don't have long. They're using me to lure you. Don't come, please. Then static, then silence. Tom felt his stomach twist. He saved the file and called out, Lyra, you need to hear this. She rushed back, fear already blooming in her chest. He played the message again. She listened, frozen. Her hands shook. It's her, she whispered. It's really her. Ina's alive. But the message had been clear. It was bait. The Alliance, or someone inside it, was using her sister to pull her in. A trap. But Lyra's mind was already made up. I'm going, she said. Tom stood. Then I'm going with you. She looked at him with wide eyes. You could die. He nodded. So could you. Why are you like this? She asked. Why do you care? He looked her in the eyes. Because no one else ever cared when I needed help. And I promised myself I'd never let that happen to someone else. They stared at each other. In that moment, something between them changed. The silence was deeper, stronger, more personal. Then the ship shook. Tom checked the radar. We've got movement. 3 ships, incoming. Not Alliance tags. Bounty hunters. Lyra's. Blood went cold. They'll take me alive and kill you. Not if we run smart, Tom said, flipping switches. He sent the ship spinning out of the asteroid field at full speed. Debris flew past them like bullets. The engines roared. One of the hunter ships fired. The blast rocked the far wanderer, ripping a panel off the outer hull. Tom gritted his teeth and veered hard right, dipping under a collapsing asteroid tunnel. You call this smart? Lyra shouted. I call this not dying. Another blast flew past them. Then Lyra had an idea. Give me the comms, she said. I know these kinds of hunters. Maybe I can bluff them. Tom handed her the mic. She flipped the signal to open channel. This is Commander Talry of the Zentari High Guard, she said, her voice steady and cold. You are pursuing a protected envoy. Disengage or face war-level consequences. The hunters hesitated. Tom glanced at the radar. They're slowing down. Keep pushing, he whispered. Repeat, Lyra said, louder, angrier. You are violating treaty space. The High Guard has tracked your weapon systems. Stand down now. The hunters began turning away, and then one of them spoke. Nice try, girl. But your people are dust, and you're worth 10,000 alive. No one's protecting you now. The signal cut. They opened fire. A direct hit slammed into the back of the ship. Lyra fell to the floor. Tom fought to regain control, smoke rising from the rear engine. We're not going to outrun them, he said. But maybe we can hide. How? Lyra asked, coughing. We jump. To where? To the one place no one sane would go, he said, typing fast. The mirror zone. Lyra's face went pale. That place kills ships. And maybe it kills bounty hunters, too. He activated the jump drive. The ship groaned, lights flickered, and then, flash, they were gone, as the hunters screamed behind. Them the far wanderer vanished into a place of warped light and dangerous gravity, and the game had changed. The trap was set. The mirror zone was like nothing Tom had ever seen. Outside the ship's window, space twisted into impossible shapes, stars bent around themselves. Flashes of light flickered and disappeared without a source. The ship creaked as if it was inside the belly of some invisible beast. Hold together, girl, Tom whispered to the far wanderer, hands steady on the controls. Behind him, Lyra was strapped into the co-pilot seat, her face pale. The ship had taken damage in the last jump. The rear stabilizers were offline and the nav system kept flashing warning signs. "How long until we're clear of this place?" she asked. 10 minutes, Tom replied, though he wasn't sure, if the engines don't melt first. As if on cue, something popped in the engine room. Smoke began pouring into the hallway. Tom stood, coughing. "Keep us steady," he said. Lyra grabbed the controls as he rushed back with a fire suppressor. The engine room was hot. Too hot. Panels were glowing red, and a power conduit had burst open. He sprayed the foam and pulled a heat plate loose. The damage was bad. Really bad. When he returned to the cockpit, he didn't say anything. But Lyra saw it in his eyes. "How bad?" she asked. "We can make one more jump," he said. "After that, we're flying on wishes." She stared ahead at the chaos outside the window. "Then, let's make it count." They studied the broken signal again, the one from her sister, Ina. The origin point was buried deep inside a jungle planet known as Kavar 9. It had once been a trade outpost before the Alliance turned it into something darker. "What's there now?" Tom asked. Lyra swallowed hard. "Rumors say it's where they keep prisoners they don't want anyone to find. Black sites. No records. No trials." Tom nodded slowly. "Then that's where we go." Lyra touched his arm. "Tom, this might be a trap. I know. And if we go in, I know that too." But they didn't turn back. 2 hours later, the Far Wanderer dropped out of the mirror zone and limped toward the edge of Kavar 9's orbit. The planet was covered in thick clouds, but they could see green vines stretching across mountains like claws. "This place looks alive," Tom muttered. "It is," Lyra said. "The planet has predators, not all of them with teeth." They landed, quietly in the jungle, hiding the ship beneath thick trees. Tom activated a camouflage net while Lyra adjusted her gear. "We go in, find your sister, get out." "Fast," he said. Lyra nodded, but her mind was spinning. What if this was all a lie? What if she was leading Tom into a trap? They moved silently through the jungle. The trees were massive, their roots thick enough to trip a small shuttle. Strange glowing insects flew around them. Every sound echoed. Every shadow looked like a threat. After an hour of walking, they reached the old Alliance station. It was surrounded by rusted walls and half-buried sensors. Moss grew over cracked satellite dishes, but it was still active. "Places crawling with guards," Tom whispered. "They're not Alliance uniforms," Lyra said, peering through binoculars. "Mercenaries. Private contractors. Even worse. They waited until nightfall. Then they moved. Using darkness and silence, they slipped past the outer walls, climbed over a broken security tower, and crept through the shadows. Inside the base, everything felt wrong. The hallways were too clean. The guards too quiet. Cameras turned just slightly too late, as if they were being watched but not stopped. "They want us to come," Tom said. "They're letting us in." "Then we give them what they want," Lyra replied, gripping her stolen blaster tighter. They found the cell wing deep underground. Dozens of metal doors lined the hallway, each with a red sensor. Most were empty. But one door had a soft light behind it. Lyra stepped forward and pressed her hand to the panel. It opened slowly. Inside was a woman, chained to the wall, pale and barely conscious. Her face was bruised, but Lyra recognized her instantly. "Ina," she gasped. The woman's eyes fluttered open. "Lyra, you came—" Tears ran down Lyra's cheeks as she rushed forward and held her sister. "We're getting you out," she whispered. Ina grabbed her arm weakly. "No, they let me live. To bring you in." Before Lyra could respond, the hallway lights turned red. Alarms screamed, and the doors behind them slammed shut. Tom raised his weapon. "They sealed us in." Voices echoed from above. "Hello, Miss Lyra, and welcome, Tom Riley. We've been waiting." A cold voice filled the room. "Thank you for delivering yourselves. Now we can begin the real work. The healing and the truth." The cold voice echoed through the walls like a ghost. "Welcome to the core, Tom and Lyra. This isn't a prison. This is a laboratory. Tom aimed his weapon at the speakers, but it was useless. They were already locked in. Lyra held her sister tightly. Ana's breathing was shallow and her skin burned with fever. The chains around her wrists glowed with suppressor tech, meant to drain energy from her species. They kept me here, Ana whispered, because they couldn't break me. But they knew you would come. Lyra's hands trembled. She looked at Tom, her voice tight. We have to get her out. Now. Tom checked the room quickly. There were no windows. Only one exit, sealed with a biometric lock. I need time, he said, kneeling by the door. Lyra turned back to her sister and gently pressed her forehead to hers. Stay with me, Ina, she whispered. You're not dying here. Not like this. As Tom worked, a screen above them came to life. A woman in a silver uniform appeared, tall, cold, and calm. Her eyes were sharp like a knife. My name is Director Caldra, she said. I'm in charge of Project Scepter, and congratulations, you've passed Phase 1. Tom stood. We're not part of your damn project. But you are, Caldra replied. You just didn't know it. Your actions, your kindness, your defiance, it's all been recorded, studied, used. What the hell are you talking about? Tom snapped. The human-Zentari bond. It's rare, unpredictable, but powerful. We wanted to see how far it could go, how far you would go. Lyra stared at the screen in disbelief. You put my sister in chains just to test me? She volunteered, Caldra said with a smile. We didn't tell her the full plan, of course, but her pain gave us what we needed. Ina coughed weakly. I didn't know. Tom slammed his fist against the wall. You used them like lab rats, and yet you still came for her, Caldra said. You risked your life, broke laws, bonded with a creature your people once feared. Tell me, Tom, why? He looked at Lyra. She looked back. Because she's not a test, Tom said. She's someone who matters, someone I trust, someone I... He stopped himself. Lyra stepped closer to him, eyes shining. Say it. Someone I love. The screen blinked. Interesting, Caldra said, her voice colder now. Then let's test how deep that love really goes. A hiss came from the wall. Another door opened, one they hadn't seen before. 3 soldiers in black armor stepped out, weapons raised. Take the human alive, one of them said. Kill the Zentari. Lyra didn't hesitate. She grabbed Tom's blaster and fired first, one shot to the lights above, sending sparks flying. Tom rushed to cover, dragging Ina behind a console. The soldiers fired back. Metal hissed. Alarms blared. Smoke filled the room. Then everything went dark. For a moment, there was only breathing. Then, silence. One of the soldiers groaned, crawling from the smoke, but Lyra dropped on him from above, slamming his helmet into the floor. Tom used the distraction to reach the biometric door. With the power shorted from the chaos, it clicked open. They, had a chance. Move, Tom shouted. Lyra grabbed her sister and the 3 of them ran through the corridor, blood and sweat mixing with tears. Behind them, Caldra's voice echoed once more. You can run, but we've already learned what we needed, and soon the galaxy will too. They made it back to the jungle. Tom carried Ina through the thick vines while Lyra covered their escape. The camouflage net had held, the far wanderer still hidden as They reached the ship. Ina collapsed in Tom's arms. I can't... Go on, she said faintly. Lyra rushed to open the medbay. Tom laid her gently inside. Her vitals are crashing, he said. She's burning from the inside. Some kind of poison. Lyra stared in horror. They put something in her. Maybe I can pull it out, Tom said, opening his toolkit. But I'll need your help. For the next hour, Tom worked like a surgeon. He used human tech and alien code. Guessed where he had to. Relied on instinct where logic failed. Lyra followed every order, every tool, every wire, and slowly, Ina's breathing steadied, her eyes opened, and she smiled. You saved me, she whispered. Tom sat back, exhausted. Lyra sat beside him, placing her hand in his. You didn't just heal her, she said softly. You healed something in me too. Tom turned to her. We're not done yet, he said. Keldra's still out there, and she knows too much. Lyra nodded. Then we go after her. Not for revenge. For everyone else they'll hurt. Ina squeezed her sister's hand, and for the first time in years, she felt hope. Storming the fortress, the galaxy had become quieter, but not safer. News had not spread yet. No one knew that Project Scepter existed or that it had just been exposed. But Tom, Lyra, and Ina knew, and they knew it was only a matter of time before Caldra erased every trace of it, including them. We can't run anymore, Tom said, sitting across the table inside the Far Wanderer. If we disappear, they win. So what do we do? Ina asked, her voice still weak. Lyra's answer was simple. We hit them back. Silence filled the ship. Then Tom nodded. Agreed. Their plan started with a name. Drax Velen. He was a smuggler turned information broker known for selling classified alliance intel for the right price. He was dangerous, greedy, and unpredictable. But if anyone had access to Caldra's base location, it was him. They found Drax orbiting a mining colony on Nova Hex 4, hiding in a hollowed-out cargo ship. Tom and Lyra entered the smoky lounge, surrounded by alien mercs with hard faces and sharper weapons. You've got 5 seconds, Drax said, leaning back in his chair. Tell me what you want or leave before I sell you to bounty hunters. Tom didn't blink. We want the location of Caldra's fortress. The room went quiet. Drax leaned forward. You're either very stupid or very brave. Maybe both, Lyra said, her hand near her blaster. Drax laughed. She's got fire. I like that. We're not here to make friends, Tom said. Name your price. Drax pulled out a data chip. This holds the coordinates, but it won't help you. Caldra's base is deep space hidden inside a frozen moon called Veltrax 7. It's shielded, guarded, and full of death. You walk in. You don't walk out. We're not walking, Lyra said. We're flying. They paid the price. Credits, weapons, and something more. Tom gave Drax a copy of Caldra's voice logs from the trap. Blackmail just in case. As they left, Drax said one last thing. Bring her down, and maybe this galaxy starts healing. Veltrax 7 was colder than death. A dead moon wrapped in storms of ice and steel. The fortress was carved into the heart of the glacier. Hidden from satellites, shielded from scanners, but not from hope. The Far Wanderer approached low and fast, riding a frozen storm cloud as cover. Tom had upgraded the stealth systems. Lyra had modified the weapons. Ina, still recovering, would stay aboard and run comms. As they flew in, she whispered into the headset, Remember, they don't expect love to be this dangerous. The ship touched down on a jagged ice shelf near the fortress entrance. They moved fast, cutting through the snow, cloaked in cold and silence. Security drones buzzed overhead, but Lyra used a pulse scrambler to blind them. Inside the fortress, Caldra was watching everything. They came, she said calmly, just as I predicted. Her assistant looked nervous. Should we deploy sentries? No, Caldra said. Let them come. I want to watch them fall. Tom and Lyra broke into the fortress through an old maintenance tunnel, dodging cameras and silent alarms. They reached the core chamber, where Project Scepter's data was stored. The room was massive. Glowing pods lined the walls, each holding unconscious Centauri. Some were older, some were children. Lyra froze. They're experimenting on them. Tom stepped forward. Then we shut it down. He placed an explosive charge near the central power node. But before he could activate it, lights flooded the room. Soldiers surrounded them, weapons drawn, no escape. Caldra stepped into the room, smiling like a queen in her court. You always had the fire, Lyra, she said, but fire dies when the air runs out. Tom stepped in front of Lyra. Caldra's eyes narrowed. Still protecting her? Still playing hero? No, Tom said. I'm just standing with the only person in this room who still has a soul. How noble, Caldra said, raising her hand. But before she could give the order to fire, the walls shook. Alarm screamed. Ina's voice crackled over the intercom. Remember me, Caldra? She had hacked into the fortress systems from the ship. Doors sealed. Lights died. Turrets turned on their own men. Go, Tom shouted. They ran through the chaos. Caldra tried to flee, but a collapsing ceiling trapped her behind steel debris. This isn't over, she screamed. Tom and Lyra reached the exit, snow whipping around them. Ina had piloted the Far Wanderer closer, lowering the ramp just in time. They jumped aboard as the fortress exploded behind them. A fire in the ice. A scream lost in the storm. Later, in the quiet of the ship, Lyra sat beside Tom. We did it, she whispered. We ended it. No, he said gently. We started something new. She leaned her head on his shoulder. For the first time in her life, she felt free. The bond that shook the stars, the galaxy had changed, but it didn't know it yet. Far from the frozen ruins of Veltrax 7, the Far Wanderer drifted quietly in the orbit of a red giant sun. Inside the ship, Tom, Lyra, and Ina sat together, resting, for the first time in what felt like years. But peace was not safety, and safety was not guaranteed. Tom stood at the center console, watching encrypted messages come in from deep space. Ina had used Caldra's broken network to expose what had happened. Project Scepter, the fortress, the stolen lives. She sent it all to the fringe worlds, rebel colonies, and even some Alliance defectors. Most ignored it. Some denied it. But a few listened. One message, however, caught Tom's eye. It was marked with a symbol he didn't recognize. A spiral, star inside a black circle. He opened it. To the ones who cracked Scepter, the voice said, mechanical and low, we believe you. And we're not the only ones. Meet us at Vector Point 9. We have a plan. He stared at the screen for a long moment. Someone else knows, he whispered. 3 days later, they arrived at Vector Point 9. What they found wasn't a fleet or a base, but a drifting research vessel surrounded by stealth drones. Inside were 6 beings, human, Centauri, and even a few other species Tom had never seen. The leader was a woman named Kalari, once a scientist for the Alliance. She had defected after seeing what Project Scepter was doing. We've been waiting for someone to light the fire, Kalari said. You 3 just gave the galaxy a reason to fight back. Lyra narrowed her eyes. We didn't come here to start a war. Kalari shook her head. You already did. Not with weapons, but with truth. They formed something new. Not an army. Not a rebellion. A network. Whispers spread across mining moons, refugee colonies, and merchant ships. Whispers of a human and a Centauri who stood together. Not for power, but for each other. Stories turned into signals. Signals turned into missions. Rescue teams broke into black sites. Doctors treated survivors of Caldra's labs. Alliances formed in the shadows. And at the heart of it all was Tom and Lyra. But the Alliance wasn't done. One day, the Far Wanderer picked up a signal. This is Commander Phoenix of the Alliance Directive. Tom Riley, you are under arrest for harboring an enemy of the state. Surrender immediately or be destroyed. Tom looked at Lyra. She looked at him. If we run now, he said, they'll think we're weak. Then we don't run, Lyra replied. Ina activated the stealth field. We go straight through. The Far Wanderer blasted out of the asteroid belt, engines roaring. 3 Alliance warships moved to intercept. But they weren't alone. From the shadows came 6 more ships, civilian, modified, armored. All of them allies. Kalari's network had arrived. A full space battle began. Explosions painted the stars. But Tom didn't fight to win. He fought to protect the bond that had saved them both. On the enemy bridge, Commander Phoenix watched in shock as his fleet fell apart. How is this possible? He hissed. His officer replied, They're not soldiers. They're believers. Tom and Lyra broke through the final blockade, leading the fleet into clear space. Victory wasn't total, but it was loud. Loud enough that the Alliance couldn't pretend anymore. Weeks later, Tom stood on a quiet hill on a green world, no longer hiding. He watched Lyra speak to a group of survivors, sharing her story. No one interrupted. No one doubted her, because they had seen what she had done and what Tom had done for her. When she finished, the crowd stood and clapped, not for power, not for fame. For truth, that night, Lyra sat beside Tom. Under the stars, do you think it's over? She asked. No, he said softly, but it's better. You never gave up on me, she whispered. You never gave up on yourself, he replied. She turned to him. You changed me, he smiled. You saved me. She reached out and took his hand. Their fingers locked, two beings from different worlds bound by one act of kindness. And that bond? It didn't just heal them, it shook the stars.